Crap, I'm really going to expose myself right now, aren't I? Alright, whatever. I really love musical theater.
Oh, brother!
For anyone who's watched this channel or knows me in real life, this can't be much of a surprise. I mean, I've talked on and on about my time in marching band, and about kids' cartoons, and about silly movies with ridiculous plots. I might as well be a theater kid at this point. But I guess now I prefer to keep my love for musical theater from a distance, watching shows when they would come to town, binging the soundtracks, and taking in the stories at face value. Like most musical enjoyers in the year of our Lord 2016, I was swept up in the big four: Hamilton, Heathers, The Mid One, and Be More Chill, and made those four shows essentially my personality for all of high school. But that was then, and eventually I grew out of these shows and moved on to more mature things, like Minecraft, and Dungeons and Dragons, and the Owl House. Okay, listen, maybe I didn't grow up as much as I thought. But since that era of my childhood, I've been able to develop and grow to love and appreciate all kinds of shows. Here's one about an old lady gaslighting a man to marry her. Here's one about a famous guy when he wasn't famous. Here's SpongeBob. That one's actually really good, surprisingly. But more than any of those, there's been one musical that has stuck with me more than any other. One whose themes, music, and characters just hit all the right buttons for me. And one that I can confidently say is one of, if not my favorite pieces of art. Hadestown. So what's the deal with Hadestown? Hadestown is a Broadway musical written by Anais Mitchell that put a gnarly twist on some old classic myths. The myths of Orpheus, Hades, and Persephone are put into a brand new context, one of an early 1900s America with jazz and folk as the pulse of the play. For those of you who don't know these ancient myths, let me spoil the entire play for you right now. Hey, if you wanted to know, you had literally thousands of years to catch up, so here goes. Orpheus is this musician who really loves the world and the world loves him back, so he falls in love with Eurydice, a girl who, in the context of this show, always is running behind because of a tragic backstory we don't really know about. But they get married, not before a storm comes down and puts them on hard times. While Orpheus is focused on making a magical song to stop the storm, Eurydice meets the underworld god Hades and is offered a place in Hadestown to keep her safe and warm. She takes the deal and is sent to basically hell, and Orpheus goes down to save her. He does so by writing basically the greatest song to ever grace my freaking earlobes, and basically saves Hades' failing relationship with his wife Persephone, who controls the spring. They agree that Eurydice can leave, but only if Orpheus doesn't turn around, and she trusts that she'll follow him. Eventually, he gives in to the temptation, turns around, and tosses his love forever. The end. Okay, now let's talk about what actually makes the play rule. Ever heard of a motif? Sure you have, you're watching a video essay, but if you haven't, essentially it's when a common thing is present throughout a story. Whether it's a melody, an object, or a relationship type, motifs serve to connect the story and make each other and the themes of their stories stronger. Use the motifs correctly, you get some pretty great stuff. Hey, Lin-Manuel Miranda loves these freaking things. He made a song full of them. Actually, he made a couple. Anyway, what Mitchell does phenomenally in this musical, and the reason why it seems to get to me whenever I watch or listen to it, is her use of themes and motifs throughout literally everything in the play. From character connections to musical style choices to its overall message of hope and optimism in times of struggle, Hadestown thrives because of its central theme of the old being new, of what was being what is. And that's what we're going to talk about today. You know, if my high school English teacher knew that the passion project that I've been working on all this time was rhetorical analysis and modern media, they'd probably either be incredibly proud or call me a nerd. And I'm not sure which fate is worse. But the fact of the matter is, the comparison of character motives, backstories, and actions in this play is the reason why it's so captivating to watch. Each character has a reaction to each other, one that's informed by the things that they understand about each other and the opinions that they draw from those understandings. And no two characters are more compelling to look at, in my humble opinion, than those of Orpheus and Hades. It's incredibly easy to call Hades a bad guy on the surface. The guy screams of the classic stereotype of the Lord of the Underworld that we're all so used to when it comes to talking about media. And he, in this, is a big billionaire oil tycoon type that rules Hadestown with an iron fist. But what makes him interesting is not how he behaves, but the why. For all the gravitas that Hades brings in this, all the exuberant confidence, he's really governed by only one thing: fear. The fear that he'll lose everything. His wife, his empire, himself. It's that fear that brews into resentment for his wife, who would rather be on the surface than be with him. And it's that fear that drives him to create the electric city of Hadestown. And it's that fear that causes him to put on the facade of confidence that he has carried all of this time. He understands that it can all go away one day, and he would rather create a gilded cage for everything he cares about than to actually love in the way he used to. Orpheus, on the other hand, is just getting used to that fear himself. The loss of his one love, Eurydice, is what makes him realize it, and the idea that he lost her through his own inaction is just a ribbon on the fact. So when he confronts Hades and finally sings the song of his love, it's that fear of loss that they both know too well that he puts out there.
So he keeps his head low, he keeps his back bending. He's grown so afraid that he'll lose what he owns. But what he doesn't know is that what he's defending is already gone.
Orpheus understands Hades in a way that many do not, because he knows that for all of the mistakes he makes, he truly does love his wife. And it was that reconnection to that love that Orpheus brings out of Hades, and what inevitably has Hades agree to let them out. But of course, it's not that simple. While Hades was able to reconnect with his wife Persephone, he's not free from that disease of fear. He still needs the control, the rule of Hadestown. So Orpheus cannot just leave. He must go through a trial, one that Hades knows will break him. Because it's not just Orpheus that understands Hades, but Hades that understands Orpheus. Hades knows that the one thing they both fear the most is the idea of losing the one that they love and having no control over that fact. So the test Orpheus must go through is this: guide Eurydice out of the underworld, and simply trust that she'll follow you out. And in the end, whether it be his own insecurity, his fear of loss, or anything else, Orpheus simply is unable to finish the task. These are two characters who are on the same path, in different locations. Orpheus is just now beginning to see the world for how it is, and Hades is finally able to see how the world can be again. The conflict from these worldviews is the driving force of the entire play, and in the end, Hades becomes a little more like Orpheus, and Orpheus becomes a little more like Hades. Neither side completely free from that evil bug that is fear. Alright, so to talk about this musical, I have to do something that I promised myself I would never do on this channel. Get political.
Oh, brother!
Wait, hear me out. This show makes a ton of musical decisions. From its genre, to its motifs, to its song choices, the music in this production is the driving force to what makes it so moving. And while there are a lot of things I could look at as examples of this, I think the best way that I can convey to you the effectiveness of these musical choices is through its tackling on Americana and the critique of capitalism it has in this world. When you listen to the soundtrack of this musical, it's not a secret that Hadestown takes a ton of inspiration from 1920s jazz and folk music. I mean, the show literally begins with a ridiculous trombone groove and some beautiful harmonies, not to mention the fixation the show has on industry, the road to hell being a railroad track, the people of Hadestown being workers digging like they're in a chain gang. It's very clear that the show is taking inspiration from America's past with the music and visuals of this play. This is further informed by the choices made in adapting the characters from Greek mythology, particularly in the choice of Hades and Hadestown in general. Instead of being the lord of the underworld, Hades is the big boss of Hadestown, an industry town set on building and making work. He speaks like an old railroad tycoon and is so focused on his electric city that nothing else even comes close to it. Why is this important? Well, Hades isn't just some caricature of a sleazy oil man. He's an allegory for the current American politics, where capital, profit, and industry prevail over the values of humanity, love, and kindness. And it's not even a subtle nod. Take, for example, the relationship Hades has with his wife Persephone, the goddess of spring. Initially, everything was beautiful and right, since they respected and trusted each other. But since Hades has driven away his love for Persephone and trust in his wife, his focus instead has become capital gain. As a result, the seasons are incredibly inconsistent, and climate change is rapidly accelerating. It doesn't take too much to make the connection. Replace Persephone with nature and Hades with industry, and you get a story of companies putting profit over caring about the planet, and the climate disaster that is to follow. A very real issue that's happening right now. But that's not even the most blatant message. That comes with the slow Chain Gang-esque song that ends Act 1, Why We Build the Wall. Yeah, That's societal. Sound familiar? The song talks about Hades' entire thought process and justification for his actions. He tells his people that he closes them off from others as a way to keep themselves free from invaders who want the things that they already have. Work. And it's that fear of the other that justifies the mistreatment he has of his workers, and the refusal to let them live life how they choose to live it. Because if you don't do what he says, you'll be just like the enemy. You wouldn't want that, would you? Immigration. It's about immigration. And it's also about classism. This song has obvious parallels to the Trump presidency, of which he spoke often about building a wall to protect Americans from those illegal immigrants. A main justification for that vitriol to the group was, of course, his demonization of the group, saying that they are pretty much any insert Trump quote here about stealing your job or some other type of thing. But at the same time, this song has this edge to it, a lingering fear of being out of work, being poor. This outside group that wants to come in and steal your work doesn't have work of their own, and that's why you should be afraid of them. It's not a matter of character for Hades, it's a matter of class. Why would you want all these poor people coming into your land? We need to build the wall so that they don't come in. It's a class issue for Hades, just as much as an immigration issue, and it reeks of American politics of the day. So what does Hadestown say the answer is for these issues? Well, it doesn't lay out the logistical, practical answers, which it shouldn't. It's a musical, not a debate. But it does speak on what needs to happen first. Hades must first be willing to open his heart to Persephone again. America needs to be open to love again. Love for nature, love for the other, love for itself. Because through love is the only way balance can be restored. Man, I love this show. Look, for a lot of this video, I've talked about the characters, sound, and style of the play and how it connects to each other. We've talked about the dynamics between characters and how that relates to symbolism of the piece and why these intricate details create a picture so beautiful and powerful that my face literally freaking melted when I saw it live. But now I want to take a step back and look at the piece as a whole. Let's look at the picture itself and see why this musical is so important now. The ending of the initial Orpheus and Eurydice myth is a very tragic one. Orpheus goes into the underworld to drag his love out and is able to, but his lack of faith leads his love to be locked away from him forever. He isn't the same afterwards and is eventually confirmed dead in a later myth. It's a heartbreaking tale with a central myth of keeping faith in loved ones to be able to escape, and a reminder that some things are just too powerful to control. So, Anais Mitchell had a choice to make when adapting this myth to the stage. One option was letting Eurydice leave freely, giving the audience a new sense of hope about the world as a whole, that when faced with tyranny, cruelty, and horror, it can be overcome. It would also possibly ring true for the current events that's inspired by. We can solve climate change if we all just work together. We can end racism if we just love a little harder. But Mitchell chooses a different option. She keeps the ending the same. When Orpheus feels the temptation to turn back, the insecurity of himself, the distrust of Hades, he turns. What does this mean? What's Mitchell trying to say about the world as a whole? When I first saw this play, I was torn up at this part. If all of it was for nothing, what was the point? All of that buildup was for that? It just didn't make sense. And it's not supposed to. Until Hermes comes out and we get our answer.
Can't we sing it? Anyway.
The entire musical is about song. Orpheus is a songwriter, and his story is writing the song to end the hard times that they've been experiencing. When he approaches Hades, it's a song of their love that he plays, a melody lost to time itself. And it's that song that he chooses to play that eventually softens the god's heart. And at the beginning of the show, the title song, Road to Hell, has this signature motif. The entire play is a sung through experience. The whole play is the song. A song of hope in the most tragic of times. A song of love. A song of loss. And eventually, despite this song playing the entire time, Eurydice is still lost, and Orpheus doesn't get his love back. It is deathly quiet on the stage, because the song is done. And yet, Hermes comes out to start it again. Hadestown is a story about having hope in the times that are absolutely hopeless. But it's also honest to its audience. There won't always be a happy ending. You can do everything absolutely right, overcome impossible odds, and still come up short. You will lose. Not everything is going to be okay. But to know that and still go through life with hope things will be better, that is the essence of humanity. It's what drives us to climb mountains. It's what drives us to get out of bed in the morning. It's what drives us to be willing to go to hell and fight the Lord of the Dead himself if it means we can continue to love. And in a world with impossible odds, massive struggles, and the possibility of pain everywhere around us, that is the thing that we need to hold on to. And it's the story that I need to hold on to. Hey, Hadestown came out in 2016, but that's not when I first heard it. No, I first heard it when it was 2020, and the pandemic had just started, and I was a senior that had just missed their graduation. The situation was crazy. Your boy was super into school and all of that. Like, there are the people that went to school, did the classes, hated it, went home. That was that. That was not me. When I was in school, I was all in school. I was in the bands. I was friends with Stuco people. I was in honors classes. I was the whole shebang. I put all of this energy and all this time and all this effort into school, and then it just kind of ended. And I just kind of got to sit with myself and think, why? I put everything into my time at school, and end of the day, it just ends up gone. Almost as if it didn't exist. Like, all of the work that I did, all the effort, all the everything didn't mean anything. And I just had to sit there with myself, and I was like, man, couldn't even see that through. I was bitter. I'll admit it. I was upset. I was conceited. Only thought about, like, oh, this is really affecting me. You know, I didn't even begin to think what it's about. The millions of people that the pandemic affected. That in hindsight, I probably should have. It was just weird. You know, you try and do so much to get it right, to get everything right, and it just doesn't matter. Here's the deal, though. It kind of did matter. Right now, I look back on 2020 with mixed feelings. I, on the one hand, had the pandemic that I had to deal with. I had all of the staying inside, and look, I love my family, but staying inside with only 3 other people and having constant contact with only those 3 people, it does something to your brain. I had to get out. On the other hand, this was an opportunity for me to reinvent myself. I could be literally whatever I wanted to be. All of the wild things that I did in high school, all of the friends, the connections that I made, I could throw all of those away if I wanted to. I ended up keeping a couple, but end of the day, I could just reset. And you don't really get that big of a reset if you don't have something like the pandemic. But now I was given this opportunity to completely restart and do things on my terms, and I was not going to take that to waste. So first of all, school, obviously. Started online, ended up going insane, and now I'm on campus right now. Second thing, band. Figured that out. I'm in band now. been doing it for as long as I can remember, so I just kept on going. And then I needed something that was actually going to like seriously challenge me. And that's not to say that the other things aren't a challenge, but like a creative pursuit that I could do on my own terms. And that's where this channel comes in. This is the first real outlet that I've had where I've gotten to make something that I'm just proud of on my own merit, doing the things that I love. I have so many other opportunities performing and all those things, and those are all great. But this is one of the one things that I know I have total control over. So if something's really good or really bad, it's on me. And throughout the slog of all the things, I'm really proud of where this channel has gone. And if I hadn't gone through all the crap that I went through in 2020, I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am right now. So, in a way, I didn't get to be with Eurydice. I tried and I did everything that I absolutely could, but it just didn't work out. But because of that effort and because of that hope that something could come out of it, for me, spring came again. And I hope it does for you too. Thanks for watching.